Sebelum HPBI dapat diiktirafkan sebagai sebuah pusat kecemerlangan, kumpulan ini iaitu HPBI perlu terlebih dahulu membuktikan keupayaan untuk memenuhi 3 kriteria penubuhan pusat penyelidikan, iaitu kepimpinan dan kelestarian modal insan, penjanaan sumber kewangan mampan dan kecekapan tadbir urus. Pada masa kini, HPBI mempunyai 20 orang ahli dari 4 buah fakulti tersebut. Alhamdulillah, saya bagi pihak HPBI mengucapkan jutaan terima kasih kepada Duopharma Biotech Berhad atas kepercayaan dan sokongan yang diberikan oleh mereka kepada HPBI bagi menggerakkan usaha penyelidikan dan perkongsian ilmu dalam bidang farmaseutika halal. 4 kertas cadangan penyelidikan yang dikemukakan oleh ahli-ahli HPBI telah pun dipilih dengan pembiayaan keseluruhan sebanyak RM100,000 Malaysia. 4 projek penyelidikan tersebut yang sedang giat dijalankan adalah Knowledge, Attitude and Perception of Halal Pharmaceutical Among General Public yang diketuai oleh Dr. Adlia Muhammad Ali daripada Fakulti Farmasi, Contents Marketing, Theory and Practice yang diketuai oleh Dr. Wan Muhammad Hewani Wan Husin daripada UKM GSB, Pembentukan garis panduan pengambilan ubat-ubatan bagi pesakit luar di bulan Ramadan yang diketuai oleh Dr. Ahmad Dahlan Saleh daripada Fakulti Pengajian Islam, dan A New Method for Rapid Discrimination of Halal and Non-Halal Pharmaceutical Excipients by FTIR, Spectroscopy and Chemometrics yang diketuai oleh Dr. Mazlina Muhammad Said daripada Fakulti Farmasi. Di kesempatan ini juga saya mengucapkan jutaan terima kasih kepada unit PAD UKM atas sokongan dan kesudian mereka menyediakan dana tambahan berjumlah RM24,000 kepada projek penyelidikan Dr. Mazlina Muhammad Said. Meskipun HPBI baru sahaja menampak di persada UKM dan industri halal Malaysia dengan berbekalkan semangat kesepasukanan dan komitmen yang tinggi serta sokongan padu yang diberikan oleh Duopharma Biotech Berhad, unit PAD UKM dan pengurusan tertinggi UKM, kami semua sedia melonjakkan usaha demi melakarkan kecemerlangan penyelidikan dan perkongsian ilmu yang dapat memberi manfaat sejagat. Tanpa melengahkan masa, saya serahkan semula kepada Pengerusi Majlis bagi meneruskan acara yang telah direncanakan. Sekian, terima kasih.
Terima kasih Dr. Ida. Hadirin sekalian, tibalah saat yang kita semua sama-sama nantikan, iaitu Majlis menandatangani Memorandum Perjanjian MOA antara Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia dengan Duopharma Biotech Berhad. Majlis dengan segala hormatnya menjemput dan mempersilakan daripada Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia dipersilakan Yang berbahagia Profesor Dato' Dr. Imran Abdullah, Wakil Rasmi Naib Canselori UKM, bersama Profesor Madya Dr. Puan Yatim, Dekan UKM Graduate School of Business, dan dipersilakan daripada Duopharma Biotech Berhad Encik Leonard Arif Abu Syata selaku pengarah urusan kumpulan, bersama Encik Wan Amir Jeffrey Wan Abdul Majid selaku Ketua Pegawai Operasi Duopharma Biotech Berhad. Sama-sama kita saksikan dan mengucap majlis menandatangani MOE antara UKM dengan Duopharma Biotech Berhad. Silakan Datuk Encik Leonard Arif. Jurugambar rasmi Universiti dan Duopharma. Prof. Puan Yatim dan Encik Wan Amir turut bersama. Hadirin sekalian, seterusnya pertukaran dokumen Memorandum Perjanjian MOA. Dipersilakan. Sesi bergambar rasmi kita turut mempersilakan Prof. Dr. Jamia, Ahli Lembaga Pengarah Duopharma Biotech, Kedekanan Prof. Muhammad daripada FSD. Prof. Jamia dipersilakan, Barisan Ahli Lembaga Pengarah Duopharma Biotech dipersilakan. Brigadier Jeneral Datuk Halim turut bersama dipersilakan. Prof. Arham, apa kata? Persilakan Prof. Daripada Kementerian Pengarah Bahagian Hubungan Industri, Prof. Arham bersama dengan kita. Apa kata bukan gemerluput di Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia dan Duopharma Biotech Berhad. Usailah sudah majlis menandatangani MOA antara UKM dan Duopharma Biotech Berhad pada pagi ini. Dengan ini majlis dengan penuh takzimnya mempersilakan barisan tetamu kehormat untuk ke jamuan ringan. Prof. Datuk Cik Lana Arif ke Kafe Canselori arah 1. Dan untuk hari ini sekalian, majlis seterusnya syarahan bersama CEO dan sesi pelancaran kem Keusahawanan Jati akan disambung seterusnya jam 10. Hadirin sekalian turut dipersilakan untuk menikmati jamuan ringan di Kafe Canselori arah 1. Dipersilakan semua. Silakan Prof. Masa, Prof. Jamia, Prof. Muhammad. Hadirin sekalian dipersilakan duduk bersama ke Kafe Canselori di arah 1. Majlis kita akan bersambung pada jam 10 pagi. Terima kasih.
sekejap. Dia bawa tak, aku faham dulu. Ada gambar pintu depan. Ni tak ada yang besar. Alah, ni tu macam boleh dapat juga. Okay, semua boleh pergi keluar.
Dah banyak duit.
Farmasi, pelajar-pelajar mahasiswa di bawah program Jati UKM. Mohon untuk sama-sama memenuhkan ruangan tempat duduk di barisan hadapan untuk kita teruskan majlis kita, majlis di bawah program Kolaborasi Strategik antara UKM dengan Duopharma Biotech Berhad. Syukur, Alhamdulillah, kita telah pun sama-sama dapat menikmati jamuan juara yang telah disediakan sebentar tadi. Terima kasih diucapkan kepada urus tim majlis. Hadirin sekalian yang berbahagia, sekali lagi Profesor Dr. Imran Ho Abdullah, Wakil Rasmi Naib Chancellor UKM, Encik Lainan Arif Abdul Syarah, Pengarah Urusan Kumpulan Duopharma Biotech Berhad, yang berusaha Profesor Madya Dr. Jamia Azdina Jamal, Dekan Fakulti Farmasi Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia, yang berbahagia Barisan Ahli Lembaga Pengarah Duopharma Biotech, Barisan Pengurusan Utama Universiti bersama Duopharma Biotech, Pegawai Kanan Kementerian Universiti dan Industri, serta hadirin sekalian. Majlis kita pada hari ini diteruskan dengan menjemput yang berusaha Profesor Madya Dr. Jamia Azdina Jamal, Dekan Fakulti Farmasi UKM, untuk menyampaikan ucapan pengenalan syarahan CEO. Majlis dengan segala hormatnya mempersilakan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Warga dan para pelajar UKM yang dikasihi sekalian, Alhamdulillah dan syukur kehadrat Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala kerana sesi menandatangani MOA dan minum pagi juga sudah selesai. Maka kita terus ke acara yang berikutnya, dan bagi pihak Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia, saya merangkapkan kesyukuran pada pagi ini kerana tetamu khas kita iaitu Encik Lainan Arif bin Abdul Syarah sudi meluangkan masa untuk berkongsi pengetahuan dan pengalaman beliau bersama pelajar dan warga UKM sekalian. Sebelum tirai ceramah dibuka, izinkan saya untuk memperkenalkan penceramah kita pada pagi ini. Seperti yang sedia maklum, Encik Lainan Arif ialah pengarah urusan kumpulan Duopharma Biotech Berhad. Beliau mempunyai kelulusan ijazah dalam Sarjana Muda Ekonomi dari Monash University, Melbourne, Australia. Beliau sememangnya Arif, nama pun Arif, dan berpengetahuan luas dengan lebih 30 tahun pengalaman dalam bidang perundangan dan industri farmaseutical. Beliau juga pernah memegang jawatan Presiden Pertubuhan Industri Farmaseutical Malaysia iaitu MOPI, dan beliau juga merupakan pengerusi Lembaga Penasihat Industri di Monash University. Selain daripada lantikan yang ini yang paling penting untuk kita sebagai CEO at Faculty Program di UKM. Dengan pengalaman yang begitu luas, pasti kita semua amat teruja untuk mendengar ceramah oleh CEO kita pada pagi ini. Maka majlis dengan segala hormatnya mempersilakan Encik Lainan Arif untuk menyampaikan ceramah beliau. Majlis dengan sukacitanya mempersilakan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning. It's actually quite interesting that whenever I come to universities kat Malaysia sekarang, that I always pay attention to the gender balance, because I understand the way gender balance or imbalance. Kerana not too long ago I attended a session that was conducted by international agency. Kenapa mereka pilih Malaysia Malaysia, I have no idea. Tapi the program was about increasing the participation of women in STEM. So I went to this conference, and around the table, semua professors, and Nurul Izzah was the guest of honor. So she stood up to give her speech, and the first thing she says was, I don't know why this conference is being done in Malaysia, because in Malaysia we don't have a problem about women participation in science. If anything, we have what is called the lost boy syndrome. The lost boys semua naik motosikal malam-malam. Mungkin. But you know, even within the industry, you're going to find that the participation of women is increasing at an exponential rate. In Duopharma sekarang, 52% of our staff, based on the latest calculation, are actually women. And for every one job that we have available, especially at the management level, generally we get 75% female applicants, 1 male, 25% male applicants. So for those who are female and in the pharmaceutical school, you've chosen the right career. Okay, because the guys are going to be pushed out of this industry. But, and this is why I started off with this story, you're about to enter an industry where entrepreneurship is not just limited to kalian nak buka community pharmacy. If that's your idea of entrepreneurship, then you've got it wrong. Entrepreneurship is required in almost any job you do, and that will be the subject matter of the presentation. The main benefit you have in a university like UKM is your interaction with fellow students, etc. And don't underestimate the ability for you to sell yourself. Okay. I know kat Malaysia ni kita kadang-kadang very self-conscious, shy, and especially those who, when secondary school before coming to UKM, you were in an all-girls boarding school or all-boys boarding school. Then gender interaction becomes awkward as well. So the main part of my presentation afterwards, I'm going to talk a little bit about the why, if you want to have or to be able to call yourself an entrepreneur, you need salesmanship skills. I have over the years been so tempted to say every staff yang masuk Duopharma should have at least 6 months in sales, to throw them into the deep end so that they understand it's not about the amount of knowledge you have, it's also about how you sell yourself as an individual and you sell the knowledge that you have. Right? As it's one of the areas that I've always noticed, especially among the Malays. Disegat. Okay? And I'll tell you some anecdotal stories afterwards, which is actually quite amusing. But it illustrates why sales and being able to sell yourself is the first step towards any entrepreneur. But I'll start off my presentation by giving you just a little bit of background regarding Duopharma so that everybody's on the same page before I start on the presentation proper. So let's see if I can get this working. Okay, sorry. There's a video attached to ini yang masalah. Okay. We'll start with the video and then a short presentation of the company.
1979, the Duopharma journey begins. In 2005, we became part of Chemical Company of Malaysia. And later on, we were known as CCM Duopharma Biotech Berhad. It initiated an exciting era. was a good era. As the world evolved, so do we.
In this new era, and with the new corporate branding, Duopharma Biotech will strive to become one of the leading pharma and biotech players in the region, as well as globally.
The new era shall bring more challenges, but with wholehearted commitment, the new era will be won.
It's been an incredible journey we've all had in Duopharma over these last few years. We've seen success over success, and as we move into this era of a new name and new company logo, let's look forward to more success for us as we move forward.
Introducing Duopharma Biotech. Welcome to a new era of pharmaceuticals, providing smarter solutions for a healthier life. A leading healthcare group providing quality and innovative solutions. Smarter solutions, healthier life. Updated technologies, renewed beginnings. Duopharma Biotech. Smarter solutions, healthier life.
Okay, so that presentation is to explain kenapa kadang-kadang people call us CCM, kadang-kadang people call us Duopharma. So what we've said that eventually every function we go to, we're going to go in my logo, letak atas meja, and anybody who uses the word CCM masukkan 50 sen as a fine in order to convince ourselves, because I have to remind myself that we're now called Duopharma. So, hang on. So this is the vision of the company, providing smarter solutions for healthier life, leading healthcare group, providing quality and innovative solutions. Basically, we're a healthcare group. Okay? We've grown to become the largest healthcare group in Malaysia in terms of manufacturing. So basically, pembuatan, volume-wise, we're number 1 in Malaysia. And in terms of value, that means nilai penjualan tu, we're number 2. And number 2 basically means, because when I say number 2, everybody wonders who's number 1. So number 1 is Pfizer. Pfizer is the largest pharmaceutical company in Malaysia, and we're number 2. Tapi dari segi manufactured domestically, then obviously we become number 1. So we have certain core values. You'll find that most companies that you go to nowadays will have core values as an organization. So we have our core values: passion, excellence, teamwork, integrity, responsible, and respect as well. As I said, we're the number 1 local pharmaceutical. Our revenue for 2018 was roughly about 122 million. Kalau tengok in ringgit, it works out to 499 million. We were 1 million short of being for the historical milestone of $500 million turnover. But we want to be a top 5 generic pharmaceutical company in ASEAN by 2022. And that will involve obviously acquiring. Tapak dia tak boleh just in Malaysia. The idea is we don't want to just be jago kampung. That if you want to be successful, you have to have higher aspirations as well. So this is the list of companies, the top 10 companies in Malaysia. There's only 2 Malaysian companies on it, Duopharma Biotech, which is the second largest. This is by value. And you also have Pharma Niaga and Ulapan. So this is tracked by a third-party provider. This year, in fact, if I was standing here this time last year, we would have been number 3. This year, over the last course of, at the end of third quarter 2018, we actually overtook MSD. MSD was at that stage number 2, so we overtook them. So now our aspirations is how do we take over Pfizer? You know, obviously, if you want to be the biggest pharmaceutical company in Malaysia, it'd be nice if it was a Malaysian-owned company rather than an overseas-based company. Back in 2010, we were evaluating sama ada we could survive as a generic company in the long term in Malaysia, because all our products are made by our competitors juga, especially our tableting products, our statins, our paracetamol, everything. The level of competition in Malaysia is actually quite robust. And the moment one company produces one molecule and it's successful, semua ikut. So in a way, it actually, when people say how do you control prices in Malaysia, it's actually very much controlled by competition. Ramai competitors. But we decided that one thing we noticed, if we look at our historical numbers, every time kita masuk government tender either every 2 years or every 3 years, the average price akan menurun. Okay, so if your price this time menang tender RM1, 3 years later it might drop to 95 cents. 3 years later it might drop to 92 cents. So it posed the problem that we said if it continues this way, the industry itself will kill the industry, because the competition would just be too severe. So then we started looking, we took out the crystal ball, and said, okay, what's going to happen in the next 10 years? And we came across an article that said that biologicals, by 2018, 8 out of the 10 biological products, and I'll explain what biologicals in a second, would be 8 out of the 10 top-selling products globally will be biologicals. And we looked around, ada siapa kat Malaysia buat biologicals? Okay. Biologicals are basically pharmaceutical, kebanyakan ubat macam Panadol or paracetamol is all made macam buat cake, literally. There's a formula, it gives you the weight of this ingredient, this ingredient, this ingredient. You put it into something that churns it all together, then you just stamp it into a tablet. The process, technology tak ini. But the biologicals became molecules. Biologicals means that you create a medication that originates from a cell, either plant or animal cell. And that's where we said, okay, tak ada orang in this space, so let's look at the focus. So we look, what's the two largest biologicals in Malaysia? Insulin and EPO. Insulin obviously for diabetic patients, and EPO for renal patients, those people who are undergoing hemodialysis, etc. Chances are they will need EPO. And of course there's a secondary use for erythropoietin in cancer patients as well. So we then, based on that, worked backwards, and eventually we decided that if we wanted to do it entirely ourselves, the timeline would take 12 to 15 years. If we did it in partnership, we could do it in 5 years. So that's where the biggest strategic shift of the company came about. I don't know whether there's anybody here from business schools, but it's sometimes small decisions like that have a huge impact on the future of the company. So we did a strategic shift, and the board of directors was supportive to tell us that, okay, you can go into partnership. Tak payah Duopharma own 100% of everything. So we went to a partnership. Originally was with a company called Biotech in Korea, and that has worked out very well. We eventually bought some shares in the company, and they're now publicly traded in Korea. And the second company we developed a relationship was Biocon. So, as I said, for those who are doing business, first lesson is small decisions can make a huge impact on your decision. And sometimes you become successful out of pure luck. Just nasib baik lah, I don't know what happened. But in Biocon's case, it was very interesting. Biocon had a joint venture to build an insulin plant in Johor, the third largest insulin plant in the world. The joint venture was between Biocon and Pfizer. Okay? And Biocon would manufacture, Pfizer would use its global network to sell the drug. Tukar head at Pfizer, new CEO at Pfizer, he decided they are interested to go into diabetes. So Pfizer actually exited the diabetes. So they exited from this joint venture. So it left Biocon. They know how to make, they didn't know how to sell. And at that time, by coincidence, Duopharma was already looking for an insulin producer. We were talking to companies in China, companies in Europe, and then we suddenly found there was a company in Johor. Okay? So we started talking to Biocon, and now we represent Biocon in Malaysia for their insulin range. And this is why I say, I would like to say it was through pre-planning, a lot of thoughts, absolutely nothing. It was pure luck. We were ready, they needed somebody. So it was a meeting of minds. Subsequently, we decided that we'll go into oncology, so we tied up with a company in India called Netco. Netco is famous globally because they are the ones who challenged Novartis's patent on imatinib and one in India. We tied up with an American company called Mylan, which is the second or third largest generic company globally. And we also tied up with BD. BD, they manufacture needles. So it's co-concomitant with our insulin business. Right. So we have a structure. We do consumer healthcare, ethical classic, and ethical specialties. So consumer healthcare business is very much what previously we used to call OTC, over the counter. Okay, so Cik Shamsul, who's here, also from Duopharma, put your hand up if anybody wants to ask. He handles our consumer healthcare business. And the consumer healthcare business has actually been growing at double digits every year. And for those who are participating in the Jati program, I think some of them are in here. Tomorrow you'll be hearing from Shamsul a little bit more about the program and also some of the products we do. Okay, so these are some of the products that we have at the moment. CHAMS, Children's Vitamin, Proviton, Adult Vitamin, Flavets. Flavets is a new technology we brought to Malaysia, which was effervescent. Previously, all the effervescent products in Malaysia were imported. So we put in a facility at Bangi, actually quite close by. And it's proven to be hugely successful. We put in the facility thinking it would take 5 years to reach full capacity. It reached full capacity about 1 year. So we're now struggling to how to expand that line. And we've relaunched, or in the process of relaunching, our medication for headaches, paracetamol, Euphamol, obviously a competitor to what you might know as Panadol as well. So we're hoping that eventually people will not think of Panadol but will think of Euphamol. So apart from that, we also have Naturel, eye drops, eye glow, Dermoplex, Alucid, Donna. Alucid. Does anybody in the room recognize Alucid? Recognize? Okay. I should ask you why, because a few years ago, our sales of Alucid spiked because there was a rumor on the internet. There was demonstrations in KL. I can't remember, I think it was a safe demonstration or whatever. So they were expecting that the police might use tear gas. So there was a video I saw on YouTube that kalau you bancukan kain dalam Alucid and put it on your eyes, you won't be affected by tear gas. Supposedly lah, I have no idea. So I shan't ask you why you know Alucid lah. So that's why I say in some cases sales suddenly shoot up for no reason. The demonstration in KL, nothing that we could have anticipated. Okay, so therapeutic classes banyak. I'm not going to go through it, and it's probably more interesting to the pharmacists than anything else. But where we're focusing is diabetes, renal, cardio, and oncology. Those are the 4 therapeutic areas that generally we are focusing and putting our money behind. So some of the classic products, Eufadil, Acetone for treating addiction, heroin addiction. We do Neodeca, and also Oral Aid is ours. So some of these brands have been around in the market for a long time. And then for our specialty cardiovascular, we have some statins and a few other products there. For diabetes, this is what the insulin pens look like. So if you go to the hospitals, if you're deemed to be diabetic, you put on pens, and most likely the pens at the moment come from Biocon via Duopharma. Our specialty, obviously, in oncology. So we've got Kytron solution injection and also letrozole. Recently, we got registration for we were the first company in Malaysia to get registration for a monoclonal antibody generic. So trastuzumab, we're starting to bring into Malaysia now, supplied by Biocon. And this is actually quite interesting because the tender by the Malaysian government, I think if I'm not mistaken, the tender is they're supplying the trastuzumab at 8,000 ringgit per dose. We got our registration slightly later, so we're supplying to the market at 4,000 ringgit per dose. Okay, so you can see the difference between innovator price and when a generic equivalent comes out, and it's a huge difference. So we're slowly building up our portfolio on the cancer care area. Renal, the latest registration we got was for our EPO, the joint venture, the product we co-developed with our Korean partner. So we do concentrates, iron sucrose, heparin, and also now our own EPO as well. So EPO is still being brought by Korea, but within the next 6 months, we'll actually be doing fill and finish in Malaysia. So in terms of international, okay. So we have Singapore, Philippines, and as office in Indonesia as well. At the moment, we're evaluating the possibility of opening office in Myanmar as well. So you can see our focus tends to be around ASEAN. Manufacturing only in Malaysia, but we're looking at options in Philippines or Indonesia. And obviously one of the major accreditations, and when I come to the talk about selling, there's always one thing that you have to realize. To sell something successfully, you must have a unique selling proposition, what people say USP. One of the USPs that we have focused on for the last 15 years is halal pharmaceuticals. Okay, that if somebody asks me what differentiates you, what differentiates you from our competitor? On YouTube, you'll see some interviews with Canselori, where one of the first things that differentiates us is we have a halal integrity system or halal assurance system built into our entire, from conception of product all the way to delivery, including warehousing. And this, while it's been a difficult battle, in the initial period it was raising prices a little bit, but now it's becoming more mainstream. And I always say the more Muslims demand halal, the easier it will be to get halal. So it's a question of, at the moment, the initial time stage was chicken and egg. We had the halal product, but there was no demand. But that's changing. We also have certification on halal from MUI, Majlis Ulama Indonesia. But that might change because Majlis Ulama Indonesia is an NGO. We're the only country in the world that has a government managed halal assurance system. Semua yang you tengok halal from UK, Australia, etc., they're all private companies. Okay, we're the only one in the world that the halal certification is actually controlled by an independent body, non-profit driven. Okay, so that's very, very key. And that's one of the reasons why I always say, as far as halal is concerned, thought leadership should be what we should be selling to the world. Because I think we've done it right in Malaysia. Okay, so I started with that, the introduction about the company. Now we'll talk a little bit about why I say that you can't talk about entrepreneurship without talking about salesmanship, sales. But let's get it right. We're not talking about sales macam ni, sale kat Guardian, sale kat Parkson, etc. I'm talking about hardcore sales, the ability to sell yourself, the ability to stand in front of a crowd and sell an idea. And you will be surprised how often you do it on a daily basis. You started as a child. Your parents will give you pocket money. Tak apa, RM1 seminggu kan? And then you find that you want to buy, during my days, there used to be this toy called Power Rangers. Okay, you want to buy that Power Rangers. The Power Rangers, each toy was RM3. So you had two choices. You either save for 3 weeks, your $1, don't eat, don't drink, or you convince your parents to give you $3 for that week. In that process, you are exercising your sales ability. How you convince your parent. Okay? Now, if you go on your knees and cry, then you learn nothing. Okay? The sympathy way of selling doesn't work. What I'm talking here about sales is professional selling skills. The way you are able to convince somebody to see your point of view, the way you were able to convince your parents that they were convinced if they didn't give you that RM3, you would never be the same child again and you would have been scarred as a child for the rest of your life. And that's salesmanship. Okay? And don't underrate it, because if you start thinking about it, you exercise salesmanship in almost every facet of your life. Don't think, I'm shy, I'm doing accounting, duduk kat meja, just look at numbers, I don't have to interact with people. No such thing. One of the major keys about your ability to be promoted within your field of study will be your interactive skills. Very, very key. And it's not just those yang nak buat community pharmacists that you have to have those skills. Even if you decide to be a hospital physician, or hospital pharmacist, etc. Throughout my 30 years career, I've always found it quite interesting to see, and this happened just yesterday. We had a management meeting yesterday in Duopharma, and we were talking about promotion prospects. And one of my direct reports says, when we look at the list of people being promoted, you can't promote that person without promoting these other two, because all three joined at the same time. Okay. So my thinking was very straightforward. I said, what has all three joining at the same time has anything to do with promotionability? It has to be merit-based. And if you're good, you're good. And if you're not so good, you're not so good. You just try to be better. But too often, I look and then I try to ask myself, why is it that three of them had roughly the same background, roughly the same universities, and then when you put them in the context of a working environment, why does one do better than the other two? And it's not academic results, for sure. Because if it was academic results, I wouldn't be here standing in front of you. And to be quite honest, even my entire group management committee, because our HR tells me, oh, ramai betul orang apply, so I'm going to put this 3.5. What's it called? CGPA or what's the word? Yeah, 3.5. So I asked my management committee, how many of you actually got 3.5 and above? Not even one. Not even one. So it's not educational how clever you are. Like it or not, it's something beyond that. And one of the things beyond that is your ability to sell your skills. It's one component. It's not the only component. It's one of the components that you have to be very knowledgeable on. A lot of people see sales purely as this, the normal sales, the Parsons, etc., etc. Very easy to do, okay? I don't call the person who tries to sell you a handphone kat gerai-gerai tu, or if you go to, what do you call it, pasar malam, that is sales, but it's not the sales I'm talking about. I'm talking about professional sales skills. And this is something you guys have to think about, especially if I pass you a microphone and ask you to give a 2-minute presentation. Okay? I would venture a guess that the percentage that will be able to do this without any notice and comfortable doing it will probably just be 5% at your current age group. As you get older, that percentage changes. So like if I give the microphone to anybody in the back here or the front row here, they'll be able to talk for half an hour with zero preparation. Okay? It comes with experience, definitely. It comes with maturity, and it also comes with knowledge of subject. Okay? And I'll touch upon what it takes to differentiate a good salesperson from a not so good salesperson. So, if you look at it, Zig Ziglar is a famous American author. He actually came out with a book and he actually said, I've always said that everyone is in sales. Maybe you don't hold the title of salesperson, but if the business you are in requires to deal with people, then you are in sales. Okay? Unless you can find a job that doesn't require any human interaction. Okay? There are very few of those sort of jobs. Presenting your project in class. I mean, you've got class projects, etc. And it's quite interesting. If you look at the group dynamics, the lecturers put you in a group of 5 people. Okay? When it comes to siapa nak present ni, okay, that's always the more difficult decision than actually the work itself. And you have to ask yourself why. Because other group dynamics are quite interesting. Same group of 5 people, one person will put up their hand. say, I want to do the presentation. Now that is not a good sign, nor is it a bad sign. Because the one person who puts up his hand could have different motives. I don't want to participate in the discussion, I'm too lazy, I'll just let everybody else do the work, I'll read it and then present it. You have those who will put up their hand because they're naturally self-confident as well. Now, a lot of people ask me about differences between local university graduates and overseas. And we did a small experiment during our time at CCM. We go every year to UK to bring UK graduates, and then generally second class, upper and first class. We bring in about 15 every year, and we did a small experiment where we put 3 local graduates with 12 overseas graduates into our graduate program to see how different it was. And to be quite honest, for the first 3 months, one thing we noticed when we gave them project, tanya siapa nak present, none of them will raise their hands. The Malaysian, yang UK terbalik, semua raise their hands. Overconfident with no knowledge. But at the end of 18 months, when we did an assessment of the top student to come up with the program, it was actually a Malaysian graduate. The difficulty was English language skills. We found that those who studied overseas, because they were overseas, they tended to have better communication skills. But put into an environment where everybody speaks English on a day-to-day basis, you find you get comfortable very, very fast. And after 12 months, you can't tell the difference between the local graduate and overseas graduate. In fact, some of the local graduates in Duopharma now, to this day, I still think he definitely came from overseas, traveled to Jakarta, etc., etc., because he's so confident now compared to when he first joined us. So, presenting projects in class, very, very key. Applying for a job and a job interview. Okay, this is where males, females berlainan. I've sat behind so many interviews where the interviewee takut look me in the eye. And it's mainly females, to be quite honest. I'm not trying to be gender biased here. The reality is, you've got a lot to offer, but you have to be more self-confident in what you're putting onto the table. I can tell you, it's among the guys, 8 out of 10 will look me in the eye. Maybe they know how to lie confidently, like this. But for the ladies, only 2 out of 10 will actually be prepared to look me in the eye, and the rest will divert attention. And body language is as important as anything when you seek a job, etc. Especially when you're treating a patient, for pharmacy students. If you can't look at the patient in the eye to tell them that this is what they have to do, then don't complain when the compliance rate is so low. Like, I've got stories about people who've gone to government hospitals and they but as a sakit. 2 days later they recovered, so they stopped taking the medication. So I asked them, and they said they would tell me, the pharmacist wasn't particularly interested when she told me about the medication. She didn't say I had to take it, etc., etc., etc. So the pharmacist in the dispensing role was not performing the role of a salesperson. If you want compliance, then you have to be able to convince the patient that you either take this course of 5 days worth of medication, or God case. Not sure I'll see you at the hospital again. I'm not saying use that. But you have to say it with a sense of confidence. You don't spend how many years in university? If that hasn't given you enough confidence of your knowledge, I don't know what else will. You can't wait till you're my age to develop self-confidence. The faster you have self-confidence with substance, the better you will get along as you move forward. And everybody has something to sell. We try to encourage some of our managers to actually present when they want decisions from the management committee. And to be quite honest, I have a tough management committee. I have a CFO from hell. I've got my chief commercial officer is the neighbor to my CFO in hell. They really give you a hard time. But that's where you gain experience and resilience. Because one of the signs of a good salesperson is you never give up. If you believe in what you're doing, you never give up. And this is sometimes among young graduates. They give up too quickly. You have a great idea, but just because one or two people told you to fly kites, doesn't mean the idea is any less good. Okay, so you have to persevere, and a good salesperson, somebody with self-confidence, will persevere. Because let me tell you, people like Mark Zuckerberg on Facebook, there were many failures before they become successful. Microsoft, these are things that were developed in a garage. Sekarang mana you hear all the IT kids have it easy. Nobody works on a garage anymore. They get seed funding, few million, and they have offices and KLCC. But the thing is, you get turned down more than, especially if you're going to be in sales, professional sales. You're going to have people who say no. The question is, how resilient are you? Because if you want to be an entrepreneur, you can't take no for an answer. If the idea is right, get good advice. And good advice never comes from a buyer. The buyer will always say you're too expensive. Okay? Automatically, there's almost like a school of buying. The first thing they teach you is it's too expensive. So the question is, how do you do it? The other one, famous one. Like I said, everybody is a natural salesman, is a person, is whether you know it or not. When you court someone, okay, courting time, half the time you try to be somebody you're not, to impress your partner. But that reality only comes post-marriage. But you end up doing the salesmanship without you guys realizing it. And like I said, you cannot be an entrepreneur if you are not prepared to sell, to learn your selling skills. And it is learnable. You have some people who are naturally boleh cakap. That one is more difficult to teach, but professional learning skills you can actually teach yourself. If you pick up books, etc., if there are certain skills that you can be self-conscious about and learn to make sure that you correct yourself. So, key traits of a good salesperson, and like I said, I'm not taking salesperson as just jual, but it applies equally to jual, is you must know your subject matter. Okay, too often people try to sell something, they get rejected. One, they didn't take the opportunity to try to understand the buyer better, or what the company wanted, or the patient wanted, or they didn't know the products well enough. Okay? But there's nothing to be shy about to admit you don't know something. I mean, I had a stint of about 6 years in sales. I was doing chemical sales and not pharmaceuticals. And sometimes I would just straight out tell a customer, what exactly does the company, your site, really want? Obviously, first one is cheaper. But it's number 2 and number 3 that was more important to me. Then he would tell me delivery was a problem, environmental concerns, etc. And you learn as you go along. So don't be afraid of asking questions. And then being able to articulate your points effectively to the audience. There's an interesting saying that I always keep at the back of my mind. I've been so tempted to say to some people. There is an old saying that says, if you don't know something, it's better to keep your mouth shut and appear stupid than to open your mouth and prove you're stupid. Okay, think about it very carefully. Yeah? Appearing is not as bad as proving. So my advice, because I've got a son who's just getting his first job, and unfortunately overseas educated, so he thinks it's God's gift to the investment banking field. And I keep telling him, my only advice is this: for the first 3 years, listen more and talk less. Okay, because you can learn so much from so many different people. And the same thing applies to sales as well. Sometimes the ability to listen makes a good salesperson. Okay, so you need to balance it out. Knowing your audience, extremely key. If you go to a chain, a GP chain, and you can spend an hour and think you have the best relationship with that doctor. But if he's got no authority to buy, you just wasted your 1 hour as a salesperson. You have to know also, you know, when you go for a job interview, what is the company really looking for? And once you know that, then it's easier for you to, you know, highlight those parts of either your personality or your expertise that will actually fit into a company's needs. Too often, you come in with an agenda and you don't stop to listen. Sometimes companies give you hints. Sometimes interviewers will give you hints of what they're looking for. And during the interview, there's no, you know, usually all interviews happen the same way. Do you have any questions? They will ask the interviewee. And it's very easy for the interviewee to say, yes, out of curiosity, what exactly are you looking for? Okay, because the first half hour is just tanya, and you've answered, but you haven't really catered for what the company or the institution is looking for. There's nothing stopping you asking the question. So it gives you the extra 5 minutes to sell yourself based on what the person himself said that they were looking for. Okay? And these are tactics that you can do in, like I said, in any form of sales. But don't think you can be an entrepreneur. I cannot overemphasize this more. Don't think you can be an entrepreneur if you haven't developed selling skills. Self-confidence is key. It's one of the main reasons why a lot of candidates at interviews fails. Body language poor, they don't want to look you in the eye. They look at, you know, one of our interview rooms. We have gambar agung kat belakang. Like this, oh, this is not agung, but the gambar agung. And they spend the whole interview talking to the agung. Sitting there, trying to attract their eyesight down. Okay, so this is things that you guys have to know. But differentiate sales from salesmanship. Okay, you need to develop professional selling skill. It is learnable. What we cannot teach you is to get over your self-consciousness. That you have to decide you want to do yourself. But once you're able to get over that, you find that the next portion, which is learning sales, become a lot easier. I'll give you an example. Like those days, in Malaysia especially, somebody was stand at the front, Q&A session, senyap semua kan. But I used to go to international conferences and I used to pray, let there be somebody from India and somebody from Pakistan. Because if there's a Pakistani and somebody from Pakistan and somebody from India in the room, I didn't have to say anything. Because they will say everything. And whatever one said, the other one will say no, and vice versa. Okay? But for some reason, as much as it's amusing, why is it that they seem so self-confident relative to Malaysians? I've never been able to answer the question. The Caucasian classroom I studied in Australia, I can see how they were brought up. But in the context of India and Pakistan, it's always surprised me why among all Asians, the individuals from these universities, from institutes of learning from both India and Pakistan, tend to be more vocal. More vocal than the Chinese nationals in China, Malaysia, even Singapore. In Singapore, they're getting there, that's why they're becoming more annoying. But they tend to be a little bit overly vocal. So as I said, self-confidence at the end of the day. You want to be an entrepreneur? Nothing's stopping you. The world's your oyster at your age. Tapi just be prepared that don't think you're going to be successful if you think sales are not important to your future. Practice. You need to practice a lot. Okay? And like I said, dalam those project groups of 5-6 people, sometimes no matter how uncomfortable you are, put up your hand to volunteer to do presentation. Because that's where it starts. You better embarrass yourself in front of your friends rather than, to be quite honest, when embarrassing yourself in front of strangers feels worse. With your friends, at least you try to with cup of coffee, okay? You recover from the experience. But when you have to do it in front of a group of strangers, then it really hurts, especially if you lose your confidence. As I said, listen, always very, very key. And this is, in business, nothing is personal. It's business. I have told lots of friends. I get a lot of emails from friends to say, oh, can I recommend my uncle's cousin's third nephew's daughter to work with Duopharma? And I tell them the same thing. Fine, give me the CV, I'll pass it to HR, but I don't get involved beyond that. It's all up to the individual. I can only make sure the CV gets to the right person. Similarly, there are a lot of cases where people will call me and say that I've opened a new company, I want to sell XYZ to Duopharma. I'll put them in touch with my purchasing. But I always write to my purchasing, choice is entirely left up to the individual. And I'm not embarrassed to tell a close friend, sorry, you didn't get the business. Because it's not my choice to make. There's a whole process we go through. If you pass, you pass. If you don't pass, you don't pass. But what I can help is make sure your application goes to the right individual. So rejection is something you guys all have to be used to. So what if you had to apply to 10 companies for a job eventually? Or 20? The trick is you only want one at the end of the day. You can't go with 20. So why are you going to be disappointed with getting rejected by 90? So we understand that it's never personal. In most cases, it's all business decisions. And listening from seniors, peers, always seek best practices. Okay, mentorships are always good things. But you have to choose your mentor very carefully. Make sure you have a mentor that's got the requisite experience. You don't ask somebody about business who's not done any business before. Okay, then that's not the right mentor. You need to be able to get a mentor who will be able to help you in your decision making. So similarly, if you are looking to work within the government, then the right mentor is to get somebody who actually worked through the government system. Similarly, you want to work in the private sector, there's no use asking somebody who's worked in the government sector all their life. You need to get proper advice. So sales in Duopharma, our reps, okay, this is the part, because students, sometimes you're too shy to ask the real question, Tarikh. Like, whenever I had done presentations like this, nobody has put up their hand and said, yeah, you're telling us to sell. How much can I get as a salesman? I don't get this sort of questions. The average sales salary for a high-performing rep in the company is between 15,000 to 18,000 a month. Okay? I have one staff who's on 22,000 at the moment. Tanda, get promoted, because the moment she gets promoted, she will drop out of the commission scheme, and I can only pay 18,000. So she will lose 4,000 per month if she opted for the promotion. So she's happy to become a glorified rep because of the income level. To each their own, and I don't begrudge her. But in sales, and this is pharmaceuticals cut to Duopharma. Okay? So for those who say you cannot make a career of sales rubbish, the highest earning individuals in the company at the moment, on average, are the sales team. Okay? The rest of us kena tunggu setahun baru dapat bonus. They have a commission system, so every month they get a bonus. So it's a question of performance. Unlike other jobs, we never know how well or how badly you did. In sales, you always know how well or badly you did. Because every month you're monitored, because every week you're monitored because of performance. So our sales staff will sell ethical consumer. It's a rewarding career. We have the problem is we have a low attrition rate. Partly because the income is very good, nobody wants to leave. And so we unfortunately have to be a little bit proactive in encouraging some people to leave. Our project team also sell their projects to the board, etc. And the marketing team have to sell their marketing plan on an annual basis for us to approve, especially when they want more funding. Cik Shamsul was in front of us yesterday promoting his plan for our Duopharma 650. And effectively he's doing within his budget. But I'm not surprised within the next 6 months, if it's very successful, he'll be in front asking for more money, right? So that all involves an element of selling. So as I said in conclusion, everybody already is a salesperson. It's just a question whether you realize it, embrace it, and take advantage of it. So I had a sales manager before. Namanya, I can mention his name, Nick Mohammed. No, he was the best salesperson I ever met. His interaction skills were fantastic. Cuma he had one major flaw. Dia tak erti close the sale. Everybody wanted to buy from him, tapi dia tak erti close the sale. He would go and see the same person 15 times, even though I knew the person was prepared to place an order after the second time. So, nobody wanted him in the organization. So, somebody proposed him to me, so I took him on because I figured out I just needed somebody to do the legwork. I would do the closure. And between the two of us, we were one of the most productive teams in the company because I used to live behind my desk. It was very easy. I only go out to close the sales. He would do everything. Bawa the buyer, beli coffee lah, PR lah, etc. etc. He just couldn't close. So it's important. Sales is not sales until you get the money. Okay, it's not when you sell. It's until you get the money. Then it's sales. So salesmanship involves getting to the right outcome. Not just about, as I said, remember, there's always somebody in that group, always overconfident but no substance. And you find those are the guys who tend to be able to do half the sales job but can't do the full cycle. They can't close the sale. And like I said, don't be afraid of being rejected. Either by a partner, job interview, etc., etc. Because it's never, your partner is personal, but it's you know, you have to get used to it. Especially the pharmacy students, dulu 3 pharmacy schools kat Malaysia, sekarang berapa 16, 17, 19, okay? So there's huge competition for jobs out there, but there's so many different pathways. So somebody once asked me, am I concerned about the number of pharmacy schools? My answer is no, not initially, because there's so many roles in Malaysia that should be filled by pharmacists, but it's being filled by Form 5 individuals. And I'm talking about which department? Sales. The entire sales department for most of the pharmaceutical companies are filled by people that lepas Form 5. They are good at talking, they are streetwise, and they make a living out of that. And the only way we're going to professionalize the industry, the whole industry, I'm not just talking about Duopharma, is to make sure there are more professionals in the role of sales. And I'm talking about detailing. So to me, there's nothing embarrassing about having a pharmacy degree, getting your forensics or what bits and pieces or etc., and then going to sales. I have we have one staff who's a medical doctor. I don't know why she became a medical doctor, because that's suka dagang. So she's not practicing. So she's now in our sales. Right? And recently she had a meeting among all her colleagues, and within 3 years she's learning more than all the other doctors that graduated with her. So you can make a career in non-traditional career areas. You don't have to be, I'm saying that sales is a skill you should develop. But for pharmacy students, I would suggest you seriously consider a sales line, because we are in dire need of professionalizing the entire pharmaceutical industry. And it's not just making the drugs, it's also how we sell, the ethics and the governance behind sales, etc. Those are jobs that should be filled by pharmacists, not by how they're filled at the moment. So there are opportunities out there, 16 or 18 schools, whatever. As long as the roles that should be filled by pharmacists are filled by pharmacists, there will be opportunities out there. Okay, leave you with a quote: "Want to live a happy life, tie to a goal, not to people or things," by Albert Einstein. So always think about yourself in terms of the goal of what you want to do. If you want to be an entrepreneur, but you don't believe you're good at sales, then for God's sake, get your skills up. Sharpen your skills on sales. Because without that, forget the entrepreneurship side. It's going to be more difficult. And tomorrow, Shamsu, with the Jati students, we're talking a little bit more about the marketing element. But you know yourself best. You've got this far in your career. Now, if you want to have a fulfilling career going forward, you have to understand that there is an element that you have to sell yourself with substance. not just selling yourself. With that, thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Cik Leonard, boleh kita buka sesi soal jawab? Okey, hadirin, ada sesiapa yang hendak majukan sebarang soalan kepada Encik Leonard Arif kita? Kita buka. Ada tak? Ya, okey.
Okay, Assalamualaikum. I'm Nurshadi Ishaq from UKM. My question is based on what you have taught just now, that we have to have the ability to sell ourselves, right? So I kept wondering, sometimes we think that we have we gain that confidence, but how to make sure that we are not overconfident, and what is the signs that you are being overconfident? That's for me. Thank you.
Okey, ada lagi tak kalau masa Encik Leonard kita ni? Ada soalan kedua. Prof. Alham.
So, this is our fourth year working with CEO at faculty program. I try not to miss any of the CEO talks because I get a lot of things, new things out of my school. And you are economists, no? And now you are the CEO of pharmaceutical company. And from your experience, how you gather the knowledge, the substance on pharmacy, to be a pharmacist. You use all the terminologies that, bombastic terminology that I cannot understand, you know? And how is your experience getting to know that substance, that knowledge for the past few years?
Okey, ada lagi? Kita buka. Okay. Silakan. Kenalkan diri ni.
Hi, my name is Aina. I'm from Lokasi. My question is, can I know what's your biggest change in pharmaceutical industry and how you end up to overcome the challenge?
Okey, kita silakan dulu Encik Leonard Arif untuk Okay.
How to avoid coming across as overconfident. Remember what I said about it's not much point having self-confidence with no substance. Your question is the opposite. You've got substance and you don't want to appear overconfident. The problem 90% of the time is your audience. Okay, if you're dealing with somebody, okay, this might sound quite bad. You need to be able to read your audience quite well. And in some cases, you have to appear cleverer than you really are, and other times appear stupider. Okay, because you have to adjust. And to be quite honest, I do this lots of times. Okay, I can't communicate with my factory people at the level I just communicated just now. I would simplify. So if I know during a presentation, we do town halls at Duopharma. During the town hall, my presentations are a lot simpler and I'm slower by 30% in my communication. Okay, just to make sure the message gets across. The only way you can avoid being seen to be overconfident is also be self-aware on how you manage your, for instance, I don't know whether this year we're doing Minggu Amanah Saham in Sungai Petani. I don't know, some of the Jati students may. You'll be dealing, kalian nak jual a bottle of fish oil. The way you sell to an urban buyer and the way you want to attract in a kampong buyer are actually two very different things. That's one of the reasons why in Malaysia, if you ask me what's the most poisonous thing about the pharmaceutical industry in Malaysia, it's multi-level marketing. because there's no training provided by the individual. That makcik just has a clip tongue, goes from house to house to house to house, and sells the same product for 3 times the price that the consumer could buy just by buying from Guardian. My hope is that as internet penetration gets better in Malaysia, that MCM will be one of those industries that will become an outlier rather than such a prime supplying into the rural household at the moment. So, as I said, the only way you can make sure you don't appear you only come across as being overly confident is when you're not adjusting your messaging. So you just need to learn some cases. I mean, if you're talking to your dean, lain kan daripada talking to, let's say, your friends. You do it naturally. You just have to realize with strangers, you have to be cautious about how much you say or at what level you're pitching your idea. Okay. Okay. 30 years is a long time. If I haven't learned anything in 30 years, I have a major problem. Okay. Apart from some professional qualifications, and professional qualifications are what I call monopoly qualifications, accounting, lawyers, doctors to a degree. I'm of the school of thought that when I interview an individual, there are only 2 criteria I look at. Dua sahaja bila saya buat interview. Aptitude and attitude. Okay? Attitude is how open you are to new experiences. Aptitude is how you will gain from those new experiences. Because I work on the basis, if you've had a degree from a decent university, that cukup dah. Okay? Because what you learn in university, you're not going to use a lot of it in working life. A university teaches you a sense of discipline, the thought processes, etc., etc. So I don't look at the qualification as much. I look at basically what I call core competency of the individual. If you have the right attitude and the right aptitude. So because of that, I also end up very curious about different things. So I read a lot. Okay, I spend at least 2 hours a day. Actually, in the last week, it's almost been 6-7 hours because we're in the middle of doing our annual report. So I've gone through multiple drafts of the annual report. But I don't think in the current climate where information is so readily available that you can progress in your career without keeping up to date as to what is changing. So, I mean, I just happen to do it in a pharmaceutical. But as I, before I was in pharmaceuticals, I was heading a paints company. I always regard myself as a professional manager. The product doesn't count. I can sell anything. But my core skill is as a manager. And it just so happens this is my 13th year in pharmaceuticals. So I'm already starting to think maybe pharmaceutical, the tooth on my forehead, time for a change of environment. But yeah, you learn, and I've got a good management team who are industry experts. So they are able to provide a lot of advice in those areas that I don't know. So I think the message is you never stop learning and absorbing. And there are people, acknowledge the people who know more than you, because the moment you acknowledge it, they're prepared to teach you a lot as well. Challenge in farms industry. Okay, what's the biggest challenge? I don't want for Ministry of Health, but I did. Okay. Okay. Then I'll be more careful how I do this. No, I describe myself as a curious observer. Over the last few years, we've, as a company, invested almost 40 million in Korea, in startup R&D companies. And people sometimes ask me, kenapa you invest kat Korea, tak invest kat Malaysia? So it started me thinking, why is it? It must be something about the environment. And I think I put my finger on it. The latest incident is we bought some shares in a stem cell company in Korea. So as part of our process, we have to do a due diligence. So we started talking to some professors who shall remain unnamed in Malaysia. And surprise, surprise,
the technology yang syarikat SCM to have, which they have patented, the professors from Malaysia were fully conversant with the technology. In fact, they had used it in their laboratories. So it wasn't how innovative you are. I come to the conclusion, innovation in Malaysia is just as good as in Singapore, as in Korea, as in Japan. That is not where the differences are happening. The differences are happening in two areas. In Korea, you have a regulatory authority that promotes innovation. That's the first part, okay? In other words, nobody's going to tell that person. In fact, it's interesting, they're doing a clinical study on atopic dermatitis medication, stem cell based, but they're doing it in Australia because the Korean authorities actually told the company it's faster if you do the clinical study in Australia than to do it in Korea because it's, I think, allogenic stem cells, so Australia doesn't have certain conditions that Korea has. So they actually provide, the regulatory authorities provide an advisory service. We have one guy who is very advanced in stem cells in Malaysia. And he's been told by the regulatory authorities, don't know how to register your product. Tak apa lah, you pergi register kat US FDA, after dapat tu baru you come and register with us. Okay, that increases investment cost. He's trying to raise 100 million now in order to do that. So that's the regulatory hurdle. The second issue is, even if I get over the regulatory hurdle, can I monetize the investment? You know, how do I make money out of this investment? The capital market in Korea, we've invested in 2 companies. Both companies tak pernah make a profit. In fact, in some cases, tak ada revenue. All they have is the technology that's patented. The first one has gone for public listing, and at the point they went for listing, they were worth more than Duopharma. Tak ada profit, 40 orang, everything. You look at their profit and loss, semua mega. But the stock market in Korea gave them a valuation higher than Duopharma. Okay? The second company we invested in is a company called SCM, Stem Cell. Same thing, hardly any revenue, all losses. They're about to go for public listing in 4th quarter this year, 4th quarter this year or 1st quarter next year. And I'm quite convinced that when they go for listing, they'll be worth more than Duopharma. Okay? So the capital market or stock market in Korea recognize the value of science that is protected, patented products. So you have to have a patented product. There is a process you go through where that your technology is peer reviewed, and then eventually you go for listing. So once you get listed, then you get more money to finish off your research, and hopefully it leads to commercialization, and then you become a billion-dollar company. So going back to your question, what is the biggest challenge we in pharmaceutical have is the fact that I think we have a really, really good regulatory system, but I'm not convinced it promotes innovation. That's the first one. And then the second part is the capital markets. Have you heard the term herd mentality? Okay, herd mentality is very big in Malaysia. How many of you have heard that we're building a vaccine plant in Malaysia? There's no such thing as a vaccine plant. You have a factory that produces one vaccine. Okay, you don't have a vaccine plant. Bina plant ni 12 produk keluar. Because you've got fermentation, you've got bioreactor technology, you've got so many different types of technology. We've gone down this road before. And this is very frustrating for me as I think General Halim knows about this. There used to be a company called 9Bio, set up to produce vaccines in Malaysia. Okay? And then shut down because they were promising everybody around the world, I'm going to be, you want TB, boleh. You want diphtheria, boleh. You want dengue, boleh. You know, everything. And then of course it failed. And the worst part about it, okay, you take a risk and something fails. They had to write off nearly 1 billion ringgit was spent on it. And what really made me upset was they had a laboratory at NSTEC, I believe. Instructions given to the laboratory, because they are not jual. nampak, they wanted to tender out all the equipment because they were closing down. The instructions given to Pricewaterhouse was doing it. Instructions given to Pricewaterhouse, international tender Malaysian companies tak boleh participate. Because they want to keep it quiet, they didn't want it to blow up. Tender closed at 12 o'clock. There was a piece of equipment that was valued at about 900,000. Somebody from India put in a bid and won at 150,000 ringgit. Bid tutup pukul 12, pukul 3 he was on the phone to me and said, hey Dan, don't you pick up a piece of equipment for 600,000? And he bought it 150,000 that morning. But I couldn't participate. Mistakes happen, we just have to move on. But like I said, I think this vaccine thing really worries me. I have the capability at Duopharma to do ACWY 135 vaccine. Kita dah ada a line that has already been validated by the regulatory authorities. ACWY is the meningitis vaccine for peguam pergi Hajj. We actually have a line. We don't manufacture because you have to find a source for ACWY in order to put it together to make the meningitis vaccine. So to say we don't have the vaccine capability in Malaysia is wrong. We actually have it. We've got the first line in Malaysia sitting in Duopharma, but we're not focusing on it at the moment. There are certain reasons we're not, because although our facility can only handle inert vaccines, we can't do live vaccines. And we're now actually looking at the possibility, how do we go about making more vaccines if we had to. But coming from a commercial side, we're looking at what is practical. As a Malaysian market, people do Duopharma and small. Because that's also very frustrating. We can do a lot more in Duopharma if our population was twice the size. So I'm waiting for the day when Tun starts back on the 70 million population again. Because if we have that, a lot more that we can do in Malaysia. A lot more we can localize. Okay? So yeah, those are examples of things that are challenges for us in the pharmaceutical industry. Now I'll go back to your professor's question.
That was the whole idea.
From Dato' yes, Dato' Iman.
Soalan saya mudah je, pasal saya buat banyak sales. Saya jumpa kawan-kawan industri samalah dengan Berhad. Banyak kita buat pitching, buat sales, tapi nak closing tu memang susah. So what is your advice nak close? You are advising them all to be confident, to have the sales pitch, to know what they're doing behind it. How do you close? It can be very difficult. Okay, nak ambil soalan lain, aku pun.
Kenalkan diri.
Hi, my name is Shaki from Jati UKM. So I have one question here. I believe that from your side, you already have like really solid reasons behind the reason of you're changing your logo and name, etc. But the thing, just out of curiosity, I'm just wondering how actually from your side are you planning on having a stable brand name again, especially to those normal consumers who come from like maybe suburban area who don't know anything about the development of your company. Thank you.
Okay, kita buka lagi. Assalamualaikum. Senat, over here, in front. Our technical man. My name is Amirul, staff from Faculty Pharmacy. We usually get the questions like in interview session, where do you see yourself in 5 years time? And I go through your biodata. You were appointed as a CEO of CCM, Duopharma, in 2015, right? So in the year 2010, did you see yourself as the CEO of the company? Or if you see yourself as the CEO of the company in that year, in 2010, so what did you do? Did you like show off all your potential, or you just do your very best and hope for the top management to notice your potential? And then I think my second question would be like, you mentioned about mentor. So how do you find your mentor in becoming of what you are today? Is it the senior staff in the company, or is it mentor from outside of the company? Okay, that's all. Thank you, Mr. Leonard.
Okay, silakan, Mr. Leonard.
Okay. How to close? It's very key. Let me give you specific advice on how to close where you're coming from. Companies in Malaysia, generally local companies, financial year January to December, they would determine their budgets for the following year by November. Okay? So your pitching has to occur between June to October. The rest of the time, once a company has arranged its budget, if you're talking to them, they will use that budget. So your timeline has to be longer. For certain companies, if you're seeing in January, February, you shouldn't be talking about, we want collaboration, now. You should be talking about it next year. The most successful companies that raise funds are those who are raising funds for programs later that the company can budget for. Because once it's budgeted, companies is simple. Once it's budgeted, we'll rather spend up to budget. Because kalau you tak spend, you have a boss or a board of directors, you may do with 80% potong lah. So we want to spend. First, so the idea is convincing, so you have to do the sales part, but the closing, your timeline has to be flexible. So, for instance, if you ask, because there's a proposal we're discussing with UKM about a learning center in UKM for Duopharma staff, it's not going to happen in 2019 because we haven't gone through the budget cycle to be able to do anything serious about it. So closing depends very much on the individual's limitations. So I think my advice is, when the best thing somebody can say is no budget, because then you say, tak apa, we're not expecting you to come in this year because we know you've done your budget cycle. All we're asking for you is to next cycle masuk kan. How can the person know? He's giving you the opening by saying no budget. So no budget, like I said, rejection is not entirely the worst thing. Rejection sometimes gives you the opening that you want. You want the person to say tak ada budget. Because they're not saying I'm not interested in the program, they're saying tak ada budget. If they say not interested in the program, you might as well pack your book and walk out. So that one's gone case. But tak ada budget, that one's easy to manage. So closing, I think timelines become important, and understanding how the corporations think. Because all corporations, especially listed companies, we have CSR obligations. We are supposed to come up with a sustainability report, etc. So there is room there that companies are looking for programs to sponsor, to fund, collaborations, etc. You just have to catch them at the right time. Okay, that's one. Second, logo name, stable brand name. Okay. Actually, this was debated when we changed the name. CCM logo tu memang lama dah. But a lot of you guys don't realize CCM logo started from fertilizer. Okay, the reason I say most of you don't realize, I don't know how many of you come from a farming background. But those who come from a farming background knows that logo, pasal tu bila ada leaf tu kan, is a pokok kan. We used to do agriculture, we used to do gramoxone, we used to do all the nasty chemicals, fertilizer, and then come 2005, we then branched into pharmaceuticals. So the usage of pharmaceuticals, the leaf logo on pharmaceuticals, has only been around for about 14 years, 14, 15 years. So that was one of the reasons why we were reasonably confident about converting the logo. Now, how do we reach the rural, etc.? That's going to be an issue. But one of the things that we have been quite successful is reaching out to the Malay medium population, which comprises almost 70% of the whole population in Malaysia. So Chamsu at the back is running a program now for Youth Upon 650, and that will run on various platforms, digital platforms, etc. It's a lot cheaper nowadays because even yang kat kampung now they're starting to carry smartphones. So we are hoping to be able to use, obviously at some point, terrestrial TV, that means the RTMs, Astro possibly,
free to air possibly, but we're starting with paid TV and also digital platform. So sekarang I think it's easier to communicate to the more rural people compared to maybe 10 years ago. So in answer to the short answer to your question, we'll be doing very much a digital platform in terms of the launches. Oh, boleh. Cakap Cik Samsul. He was the guy who, Cik Samsul, Cik Jeff at the back, was the chairperson and CEO and the people who ran the branding project for Duopharma. So if you like the brand, tell me. If you hate it, tell them.
Cik Daniel, boleh pasal UKM ni dia mempunyai rangkaian ke satu negara. UKM punya pelajar ni datang daripada segala pelosok Malaysia. We are the best branding agent.
Shamsu, you heard that, right? Okay. Yeah, I actually get asked this question quite a lot. Did I ever aspire to be CEO? Okay, how do I answer this? Okay. Everybody knows the Prime Minister of UK, Theresa May. Who's the Deputy Prime Minister? Siapa tahu tak? Okay. President of US, Trump. Semua tahu kan? Vice? This one few people would know lah, Mike Pence. Tapi see, it's always quite interesting that I've always found that the best job in the world is number 2. Why? Because a lot less PR and you can actually do your job. The moment you have that PR component in your role as a CEO, unfortunately it comes about. It is, not to say it's not important, but sometimes it's a distraction. For instance, the moment you become a CEO, you have to have a working knowledge on HR, finance, sustainability, safety, health, environment, strategy, etc., etc., etc. You're basically a jack of all trades, a master of none. So coming as a master in a particular area, that transition from being, let's say, a CFO or head of a department into the CEO's position, the biggest culture shock is that what you think all your skills you come with, you're supposed to park 90%. Because as you get promoted, even though you're the CFO and you get the CFO replaced, you have to make sure that he's now the CFO, no longer yourself. And that transition can be very, very difficult. Whereas if you're number 2, nobody cares about you, okay? And you can do your job, right? You can actually focus on areas of importance to the company, etc. And you don't have to worry about the board because that's what the CEO does. All you need to do is focus to make sure the company is moving in the right direction, etc., etc., etc. So when I came in, I actually came back to, I was with CCM and I was heading one of their units, and then I left to head ICI Paints in Malaysia. When I came back to CCM, I was actually, I came back as CEO of Duopharma Biotech, CCM Duopharma Biotech. Tapi CCM Duopharma Biotech in 2008 is different from Duopharma Biotech today because we had a separate operation under CCM. Okay, so in 2015, I merged the two. If you say that, because I headed CCM in totality, in addition to pharma, I also headed the chemicals and polymers and fertilizers. I don't think I ever aspired to hold a particular role. But I did have an ambition when I graduated. It would be nice to head a Malaysian company, it would be nice to head a multinational company. So I've been ticking it off along the way. Okay, I managed to get that. I was in a lucky position. It's all about how you optimize potential. You have to be in the right place at the right time. I can tell you the story. At the age of 33 actually, I was offered a position to head a public listed company in Malaysia. Due to arguments at the board, I didn't get the role. fast forward 15 years later, 16 years later, I got the role, but through a totally different pathway. Okay, so sometimes, as much as you say, I've got ambition, I've got a life plan, things happen due to fate. He decides. And you sometimes do big circles to come back to the same place. So my advice, because I've had a few entry-level graduates where I asked them, what's your ambition? Confident ones, especially from overseas. I want your job. I'm so tempted, ambil lah. So I think as long as you enter a role to do the best that you can do, because everybody's got differing priorities. You know, it's not all about money. You know, you need to understand what work-life balance you're prepared to live with, okay? And that will dictate where you can go. Because if you decide that it's all about work, then you have to understand the sacrifices. You have to be prepared to make the sacrifices. So my view is always do the best you can do. You know, you need a life outside of work. And what is left over is the work portion. And if that means only 8 hours a day, then don't expect to be CEO. But if that means it's 12 hours a day, then ada chance. So, but you know, I think everybody should be happy with their own lot. Because the title is only words at the end of the day. And respect has to be earned. You don't get it just because of the title. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe final round, 1-2 soalan bersama Encik Leonard kita. Yes, Prof.
Muhammad from Faculty of Science and Technology. We've been talking about pharmacies, we've been talking about economics. How does science and technology fare in entrepreneurship? Because I have a lot of our lecturer also involved in research and innovation. As you said, some of this product has to be brought to the market.
Okay, maybe the final from anybody? From Jamia? From Jamia.
Probably my last question.
Okay.
Mr. Leonard, you mentioned many times about don't be upset with being rejected. Yeah, well, naturally it hurts. But based on your past experience, is there a quick formula that you can share with us how to become a resilient person to face these challenges?
Okay. Let me just miss out. There was a question just now about how to find the right mentor. Did I ever have a mentor? The answer is no. Because I found that you can actually learn from so many different people. Okay, you just need to have a filtration system to know what you're hearing is right or wrong. So, but yeah, in some cases, I think especially the CEO and faculty program, there's no one person that's perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect mentor. Okay, I think it's better for individuals to be prepared to learn from a range of people rather than one person. Science and technology, that's a very interesting question. I don't think enough emphasis is placed in Malaysia on science and technology. I think a lot of lip service is, okay, but in actual fact, no. I think I've told Maslina this. I was actually in a forum, let's not name the forum, but the forum was involved about disbursing certain grants to public universities. And all the grant applications are peer reviewed. Okay, there's a rating of 1 to 5, and only 4 and 5 will get the grants, which is fair. I think it is a system where the best is meritocracy. When I looked at the breakdown, I suddenly saw art subjects 2 and 3 were also getting grants. So I or it's because we always get accused of not giving arts sufficient funding. Okay, and I said that's a different discussion altogether. If you want to encourage meritocracy, if you want to encourage, obviously these are all peer reviewed, I would take the 2s and 3 funding and give it to the 4s and 5s. The fact that it came from science or some other area is beside the point. Yeah. So that's why I keep saying sometimes I think there is lip service that's been given. There is some really great research that's been done at universities. I don't think there's a correct platform because I know some government institutions have been around for a long time and they become pretty politicized. Not talking about the politicized from the governing standpoint, legislative, but it's just among themselves. I mean, institutes like RRI, Palm Oil Board, etc., etc. Gone are the days where you used to have the head of that institution used to be world-renowned scientists in themselves. They become administrators. Everybody who's there is administrators. So I find it quite, and that's why you get issues like this vaccine thing. It's being brought up by people who are not involved in the industry. I mean, there are so many academics who, if you look at their PhD, they may not be doing it now, but if you look at their PhD papers, especially from School of Pharmacies from around Malaysia, a few of them who actually have very solid vaccine backgrounds. These are the guys you need to be liaising with, experts. But too often we listen to quasi-experts in Malaysia. That's one. And it goes back to my frustration about pharmaceuticals. I think sometimes we're barking up the wrong tree as far as why are not more innovations coming to the market. It's not just about nurturing the idea, but you also have to nurture the commercialization and make sure that we get rid of the road humps, and whether it's regulatory, whether it's funding, etc. That tends to me that we cannot monetize science for some reason in Malaysia. That's a core issue, and it's not about knowledge. Because our experience in Duopharma, after doing multiple acquisitions overseas, doing due diligence, there was no difference in the science. There was no difference in the science. The knowledge, the research was absolutely the same. They said that they can monetize it there, you can't monetize it here. So I would like to see the MASTEC, the ministry in charge of science at the moment, take a different approach. And it has to be a more collaborative approach in terms of commercialization of research that's being done at universities. It needs to have, something has to change along the way if it's going to be successful. But it's definitely not the brain power. The brain power is there already. Now it's taking it the next step. Okay. Oh, don't be upset if you're rejected. Oh, you know who the best people, okay. I'll give you a solution. You want to see how to manage rejection, pergi Parliament Malaysia. I'm not joking. You sit in and you listen how the ministers tear into each other. You watch it on TV and you already rasa tak sedap, the way it's totally non-Malay, the way they behave to each other. But the reason you go to Parliament is you go to the coffee house in Pasar. You sit in the coffee house and they are fighting like anything kat Parliament tu. Keluar daripada Dewan, hand on each other's shoulder, pergi minum kopi. So, and some of the things I said in Parliament are pretty hard, but they've learned to take it and accept that that's what life is. So that's the best way. You just see it. I was shocked when I first saw it. Because I thought they will be coming out day one and sort of punching each other. Hand on shoulder, pergi minum kopi, and talk about each other's insults to each other. Ooh, that insult was very good. I have an answer now. I didn't have an answer then. So, I think as I said, rejection is part of life. And, in a company, the worst department in Duopharma is the business development department, because they would do 15, I think at one one stage, 19 live projects, even though they knew at the end of the day, we could only afford one. But they had to put as much effort across 19 to choose the right one of the 19. So some jobs naturally have rejection built in. But I think throughout your life, you're going to find that you are so adamant that you're right, that somebody who is more senior than you is going to tell you you're wrong. And my advice is swallow, go up, deep breaths, count to 10, and then come back another day for your case. Don't give up. All right? Thank you very much.
Sekian, apa kata tepukan 20 buat Encik Leonard Arif, Pengarah Usaha Duopharma Biotech. Encik Leonard, terima kasih atas syarahan CEO di bawah tajuk Develop Your Skills in Entrepreneurship. Hadirin sekalian, memorandum perjanjian telah pun ditandatangani, syarahan CEO telah pun disusuli. Kini izinkan saya untuk membacakan ringkasan berkaitan usaha ke arah pelancaran Kem Keusahawanan Jati Pelajar UKM. Sebentar, Prof. Datuk Encik Leonard, untuk saya bacakan sedikit ringkasan. Program jalinan antara industri dan universiti atau dikenali sebagai JATI diasaskan oleh Duopharma Biotech Berhad sebagai satu inisiatif untuk memupuk kemahiran keusahawanan di kalangan pelajar institusi pengajian tinggi. Program JATI di Fakulti Farmasi UKM telah bermula pada 2013 dan sejak itu telah banyak memberi peluang kepada pelajar melalui latihan keusahawanan menggunakan produk-produk Duopharma Biotech Berhad. Sebagai salah satu aktiviti di bawah program JATI ini, seramai 50 orang mahasiswa UKM rentas fakulti akan menjalani program Kem Keusahawanan Jati yang akan berlangsung selama 3 hari, mulai hari ini bertempat di Camp Al-Azhar Mori. Justru hadirin sekalian, majlis mempersilakan Prof. Datuk Imran bersama Encik Leonard Arif untuk bersama-sama menjayakan simbolik pelancaran Kem Keusahawanan Jati Pelajar UKM dengan turut diiringi Dekan Fakulti Farmasi. Kita juga akan menyaksikan Datuk Imran, Encik Leonard dan Prof. Madya, Prof. Dr. Jamia yang akan menurunkan tanda tangan di banting pelancaran. Teman-teman, simbolik pelancaran hari ini dihasilkan sepenuhnya hasil usaha kreativiti para mahasiswa di bawah program JATI UKM. Tepukan buat para pelajar JATI UKM. Okey, persilakan Datuk Imran, Encik Leonard Arif dan Prof. Jamia untuk menurunkan tanda tangan di banting pelancaran. Okey. Apa kata hashtag jom kita saksikan montaj video pengenalan program JATI UKM. seterusnya mempersilakan Prof. Datuk Imran untuk menyampaikan cendera kenangan kepada Encik Leonard Arif berupa coffee table book bertajuk Keajaiban Alam Marine Khazanah Malaysia. Seterusnya cendera kenangan balas daripada Encik Leonard Arif buat Prof. Datuk Imran berupa promo pack barangan farmaseutika. Terima kasih Prof. Datuk Imran, Encik Leonard, Prof. Jamia atas kesediaan untuk sama-sama majlis perasmian simbolik. Dan boleh tak saya hendak mempersilakan Prof. Datuk Imran, Encik Leonard dan Prof. Jamia bersama hadirin sekalian, kita tutup tirai dengan jom bergambar kenang-kenangan beramai-ramai. Jom kita meriahkan bilik senat. Mungkin juru gambar? Pelajar Jati, Prof. Arham, Brigadier General, Datuk Alim, silakan. Prof. Muhammad, kiri kanan. Tim daripada UKM GSB dan juga tim daripada Duopharma, tim pengurusan daripada Fakulti Farmasi. Hashtag jom bergambar kenangan. Macam mana dekat bawah atau kan ada kat sini? Ramai sangat. Okey, kalau juru gambar Cik Iqbal cakap back dekat bawah lah Okey. So, majlis mempersilakan semua untuk ke arah semua Prof. Jamil, kita ke sana Okey. Okey, dipersilakan semua dan saya sudahi majlis kita dengan wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam hormat buat semua. Dipersilakan semua untuk kita bergambar kenangan di bawah. Okey. Jemput semua ke arah semua dekat bangunan kancil kita.
Lama dah.